This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
Next on the 5 o'clock report.
There's just a massive amount of fire coming to Tel Aviv right now.
This operation will continue.
Israel and the United States have shown extreme patience.
Kilmer wants you to have faith.
I don't feel like a king. We're not a king. We're not a king at all.
Now, let's go to the newsroom.
Tel Aviv under attack. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Mark Webster.
Hey, there's just a massive amount of fire coming to Tel Aviv right now. All right, let's go. Time to go. Guys, come on, everyone move. Everyone move now.
That's Fox war correspondent Trey Yink, sometimes ducking for cover as one of multiple waves of more than 200 Iranian ballistic missiles rained down from the sky, a response to Israel's overnight attacks on Iranian nuclear facilities and personnel that inflicted damage and casualties among Iran's military leaders and nuclear scientists. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
This operation will continue for as many days as it takes to remove this threat. The Jewish state refuses to be a victim of a nuclear holocaust perpetrated by the Iranian regime.
Former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo tells Fox News Israel's attack was more than justified.
Israel and the United States have shown extreme patience. This has been a decade plus in the making. What we saw take place last night, now this morning, is going to continue for days and weeks. The Israelis clearly believed, and I think they were right, that this was the moment, this was go time.
Among those applauding the Israeli strike is Pennsylvania Democratic Senator John Fetterman, who's drawn frequent flack from his own party for his support of Israel. Fetterman posting on social media, quote, "Keep wiping out Iranian leadership and the nuclear personnel. We must provide what is necessary, military intelligence, weaponry, to fully back Israel." U.S. officials have acknowledged they have been helping Israeli forces to try to repel those Iranian missile attacks, but have not been involved in any offensive operations against Tehran. As of now, a scheduled weekend nuclear negotiation session between U.S. and Iranian officials is still scheduled to take place in Oman. As for the impact all of that could have here in the U.S., the stock market took a pretty good hit to close the week, and it could make for a bump in the price you pay for gas.
Retailers that operate gas stations by later today will see the higher price hitting what they're paying, and they're likely to start sending prices up going into the weekend and through the weekend. For now, there's no concern that I have that gas prices would go to record prices that we experienced in 2022.
That's Gas Buddy's Patrick DeHaan. Kilmar Abrego Garcia pleads not guilty to federal human trafficking and conspiracy charges. The Salvadoran immigrant arraigned in a Tennessee federal court today, accused of trafficking illegal immigrants between states. His wife made a faith-filled plea on his behalf to supporters.
Kilmer wants you to have faith.
Kilmer quiere que tengas fe.
He said, these dark times are where we're facing all the tribulations that God has put in our path.
Estos tiempos oscuros.
But keep praying and keep fighting.
Abrego Garcia was wrongfully deported to El Salvador earlier this year before being returned to the U.S. last week. The investigation continues into the crash of an Air India Boeing 787 that crashed just after takeoff, killing all but one of the 242 people aboard, along with a still undetermined number of people on the ground, when the fully fueled jet slammed into several buildings and exploded. Aviation officials have recovered a key piece of info, the plane's flight data recorder.
They have found one of these black boxes. I think these are going to unlock the mystery of this accident. So it's critical to get these black boxes and get them read out.
Aviation expert Robert Sumwalt. A court setback for the Trump administration over an executive order seeking to make sure those voting in U.S. elections are eligible.
The March order from President Trump required everyone registering to vote in federal elections provide proof of citizenship. It also limited when mail-in ballots could be accepted. But a federal judge in Massachusetts has put that order on hold, ruling it usurps the state's constitutional power and seeks to amend election law by fiat.
Fox's Jared Halpern. Protests planned across the country tomorrow in opposition to Trump's military parade in D.C. honoring the U.S. Army's 250th birthday. Trump was asked about those weekend mass protests.
There are several No Kings protests planned across the country on Saturday as well. What are your thoughts on those?
What do they call No Kings?
No Kings.
I don't feel like a king. We're not a king. We're not a king at all.
Organizers say No King's Day protests will be held in over 1,800 communities, up to 1 million people expected to take part. 10,000 voting members gathered in Dallas this week for the annual meeting of the Southern Baptist Convention. Among the resolutions, they called on America's leaders to overturn so-called gay marriage, normalization of transgenderism, and banning pornography and IVF. SBC Resolutions Committee Chair and Theology Professor Dr. Andrew Walker tells NBC.
We do want to use our size and our influence to remind lawmakers of who we believe they're accountable to. It's not just that they're accountable to Southern Baptists as the denomination. We think that they're accountable to God's laws.
Dr. Walker says the bottom line is that truth is truth.
These truths are not just truths for Southern Baptists. They're not just truths for Christians. These are truths that are foundational for societies to flourish.
About 13 million Americans identify as Southern Baptists, making it the country's largest Protestant denomination. One move that did fail during their meeting, a proposal to ban female pastors, falling about 5 percentage points short of the needed 2/3 for passage. Still to come here on the 5 o'clock report, is cash still king in New York, securing Pennsylvania's governor's mansion, and the Capital Connection gang reacts to New York's vote on physician-assisted suicide.
Tonight is generally cloudy. A couple of showers near Lake Ontario. More numerous showers and a few thunderstorms farther south through the southern tier of New York into parts of Pennsylvania. Low temperatures 50s and low 60s. Tomorrow and Sunday across New York State, a couple of showers, a lot of rain-free time, even a break of sun through cloudy skies. Showers will be a little more numerous in Pennsylvania, a couple rumbles, more so Saturday than Sunday. Weekend high temperature 60s to near 70 on Saturday, mostly 70s on Sunday.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Now checking the stories making news where you live across New York and Pennsylvania. In some New York stores and restaurants these days, it's credit only. But a bill passed in Albany would ban food and retail stores from refusing to accept cash payments. Store owner Doug Sharp heads a merchants association in suburban Rochester. It tells WROC.
Cash versus credit, it's a very different dynamic. Most will use their credit card, and it is simple, easy, tap and go and be done. But I think there is still that need to have the ability to somebody that they choose to want to pay cash to be able to take the cash.
That thought echoed by Alyssa Rossi.
I don't think that any business should find themselves in a position to refuse someone from being able to get something that they need just because they don't want to accept cash. They need to provide a viable option.
Rossi says the cashless trend is a lot more common in the New York City area than it is upstate. Work underway to beef up security in and around the Pennsylvania governor's mansion. That includes a new, taller perimeter fence that's pretty hard to climb. Security expert John Sansanito tells WHTM.
While anti-climb fences aren't necessarily going to be completely anti-climbable, they delay the process. They make it so that it takes someone longer time to be able to scale a fence, which buys time for security to react.
Sansanito says the fence is a visible measure, but will certainly be followed up with many other less visible steps to secure that mansion following a spring arson attack on the building that endangered Governor Josh Shapiro and his family and did over $1 million damage. All right, up next, highlights from today's edition of Capital Connection. Our Bob Price speaking with Michael Gear from the Pennsylvania Family Institute and Jason McGuire with New York Families. The big topic they tackled today, the New York State Senate approving physician-assisted suicide, a move McGuire says does not bode well for the future.
I think I'm most concerned with the long-term ramifications of what happens. Legislators, they tend to think of the immediate rather than the long-term implications of their public policy decisions. And so when you pass something like assisted suicide today, they say it's only for a handful of people who are in their final days of life, and it's not going to harm anybody. It's fear-mongering to say anything different. But then you look at what has happened in other countries around the world. We see in Canada, for example, the great expansion of these assisted suicide laws that started very similar to what New York has and has now become more euthanasia and leading to assisted suicide for the depressed, the mentally ill. You see in Europe where now children can fall victim to these types of things. So it really is problematic, and I think we are just continuing to slide towards a culture of death. That's my concern for the Empire State.
Yeah, they say this is modeled after the Oregon law on assisted suicide, but this one may go even further. Michael, I know you're not dealing with it directly, but I'd love to get your thoughts as well. There's no safeguards in place here, no required mental health screenings for anybody who wants to off themselves, for lack of a better term here, Michael. I don't mean to be grotesque, but that's exactly what this is. I want to ask you, is assisted suicide one of those issues where people of faith can agree to disagree, or do you see it as an issue where Christ followers need to be dogmatic in their opposition to this?
I think Scripture is very clear on this, Bob, and Christian theology is as well, that the taking of innocent human life, and that includes by suicide, assisted or not, is wrong. The Bible tells us that God is the author of life, that we are not our own, we were bought with a price, and as Christians, our support for the sanctity of life should always extend from conception until natural death. I do want to take this moment just to commend Jason and the wonderful folks that support New York families for praying and engaging so valiantly on this issue over many years that is so close to the heart of God. And we here in Pennsylvania join you in praying for hopeful veto of this horrible legislation.
Yeah, and that's what I want to ask you next, Jason. The million-dollar question is, what will the governor do? I know she's under tremendous pressure going into an election year next year. Does she sign this legislation, making New York just the 12th state to go down this road, or is she going to reject this medical aid in dying bill?
Well, the governor has been tight-lipped about her position on this issue. Her staff has simply said they'll look at the issue should it pass the legislature. I don't think it's something that she will sign very quickly. My hope is that she'll take time. She will really look at the arguments on both sides, frankly, on this to see and to make an intelligent decision. Governors tend to have to be the grown-ups in the room. Legislators can do what legislatures are going to do, but then at the end of the day, the governor has to sign that piece of paper, sign that bill into law. So they tend to be a little more of the grown-ups. I hope that she will look at this, she will see the legitimate concerns, and will veto that legislation. We also pray that this governor's heart will be turned to respect human life when it comes to this issue.
Yeah. Michael, Jason had mentioned Canada, and I thought it was interesting. This is a country that 9 years ago nationalized doctor-prescribed death, and today suicide is the 9th leading cause of death in Canada. I think 1 out of every 30 deaths in Canada is an assisted suicide. Begs the question, in states or countries for that matter that permit this practice, is it true that the overall suicide rate is higher?
It is true, Bob, and honestly that's not a surprise since the law is a teacher. When the government condones and endorses the taking of innocent human life, that devaluation quickly spreads across society with people believing that induced death is a good thing, which it obviously is not. Studies in numerous states, Vermont and Oregon and other places, Switzerland and the Netherlands, that have embraced this assisted killing have seen overall suicide rates grow. And when we consider the mental health crisis in our nation and that certain population groups, especially older women, seem to be targeted by that, the Christian compassionate thing is to oppose this kind of evil.
Michael Gear from the Pennsylvania Family Institute and Jason McGuire with New York Family speaking with our Bob Price on today's edition of Capital Connection. Hear that and all of Family Life's original news features in podcast form at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or at FamilyLife.org. This is the 5 o'clock report on Family Life.
What do the wealthy know that others might not? Hi, I'm Rob West with your Faith and Finance Minute. A recent survey of 700 people with $3 million or more found that these people understood 5 important concepts. The first was delayed gratification. They invested with long-term goals and didn't try to get rich quick. Second, they avoided debt, using it only when it could bring a net gain, like with a home or business. Third, they held investments even when the market was down. Fourth, they invested in tangible assets like real estate. And finally, they paid close attention to taxes and got professional help when needed. It seems the wealthy followed a biblical principle, whether they knew it or not. Proverbs 1:5 teaches, "Let the wise hear and increase in learning, and the one who understands obtain guidance." Manage your finances wisely with the easy-to-use FaithFi app. Download FaithFi, Faith and Finance from your app store, or learn more at faithfi.com.
All right, coming up on the 5 o'clock report, a farmer's touching 20th anniversary gift for his wife, one that really grew on her.
The farmer takes a wife, the farmer takes a wife. Hi-ho, the dairy-o, the farmer takes a wife.
I'm Kevin Williams, and here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. Well, the weekend will win no awards for beauty, but it's not a complete loss. Though there will be some rain, there'll be enough dry time to get some plans in. It'll be a little on the cool side, although warming conditions are due next week. Our call for tonight is generally cloudy. A couple of showers near Lake Ontario. More numerous showers and a few thunderstorms farther south through the southern tier of New York into parts of Pennsylvania. Low temperatures 50s and low 60s. Tomorrow and Sunday across New York State, a couple of showers, a lot of rain-free time, even a break of sun through cloudy skies. Showers will be a little more numerous in Pennsylvania, a couple rumbles, more so Saturday than Sunday. Weekend high temperature 60s to near 70 on Saturday, mostly 70s on Sunday.
Sounds good, Kevin. Thank you. Finally at 5, the story of a Kansas farmer who you might say is outstanding in the field of marriage. With his 20th wedding anniversary coming this year, second-generation farmer Jesse Blaze literally grew an anniversary gift for his beloved wife, Sarah. Starting last fall, he strategically planted some 300 million red and white wheat seeds over 320 acres, all to spell out the message, Jesse and Sarah, 20 years. A neighbor then took Sarah up in his small plane so she could see the fruits of her adoring husband's labor. She tells ABC.
To say I was surprised is very much an understatement. Pretty funny to think that was growing there, since last fall.
And though it wasn't written in giant letters like his, Sarah had a message too.
The farm life is tough sometimes. And so I think Jesse and I try to, when he needs help, I help him. When I need help, he helps me. And we're a team.
Of course, Jesse's gesture does beg the question. How do you top it?
The problem is I've raised the bar for myself. So this may be the pinnacle of anniversary gifts.
I have a feeling he might just find a way. That's the world we live in for Friday, June 13th, 2025. Thank you again for joining us. Have a blessed Flag Day tomorrow. I'm Mark Webster, Family Life News.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.